going to do short-term parking questions and long-term parking questions for all of our TIP meetings. And we had about 5 left over yesterday, and we wanted to provide the answers as best we can. And we thought we would ask some of the teachers on assignment to give us their 2 cents on some of the topics that were asked. So our first question is, tell us about our new superintendent.
Our new superintendent is Tracy Zerpoli. Her expected start date is November 14th. She is currently serving as the superintendent of Tri-Cities ROP, which is in the Whittier area. She's held that position for approximately 6 years. Prior to that, she was a coordinator of CTE ROP programs for the Fontana School District, which is very big. And she coordinated programs on multiple sites for that particular district. And I've worked with her closely, and I look forward to all that she's going to bring to the position of superintendent of CRIRAP. She's well qualified.
Thank you, Donna. You didn't know who that was? That was Donna Robinson sharing about our new superintendent. Question number 2. For our other teachers I'll introduce, we have Chris McClung.
Here.
David Amon.
Here.
James Hattar.
Hello.
And Ellen Sampong.
Hi.
So our next question is, how do you view IEPs and 504s in Aeries? Okay, so to be honest, none of us have used Aeries. We're all Zangle. And however, where you could find this information would be to contact your career readiness specialist on your campus. Many of them have access to Aeries and would be able to show you around, and that's for Zangle also. You could contact the records clerk at your school site level, or other teachers who have more experience with the student information system may be able to help you with that. Anybody else have any other ideas?
Can I try, again, we get this out, but can I try phoning a friend?
Oh, sure. That's not fair. You're cheating.
And in the meantime, some of you might get them emailed to you from your counselors as well, too, or school resource officers. They may just show up in your email, your school email.
Chris is...
Hi, it's me. You are live on a podcast right now.
Okay.
And a question we have is, how do you look up IEPs and 504s in Aeries?
Okay, so you look up an IEP or a 504 in Aeries. It should be under the student's profile. You will see that they will be under a special program, and it will come up in red on your tab up at the top. It'll say program, or it will say, I can't remember what the word is, but it'll have a red, like, how many they have, and you click on it, and it will show you a list of the things that are special, like AEPs, 504s, special programs, and if you actually just click right on it, it'll take you to the IEP. The other way you can do that is you can look under where it says accommodations and modifications on the side cap of their profile.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
And who was that?
And that was Wendy McClung from Redlands East Valley High School. Okay, ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question was, how do you determine how many points each assignment is worth? Plan for a certain number of points for the year? How did you guys do your point system? Mine was very non-scientific.
Likewise.
Same here.
Non-scientific, basically a point here, a point there, depending on the work. If it's a lab assignment, if you have some type of lab, you may be able to give a little bit more depending on the skill that's used in that lab.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was also non-scientific, but it was also depending on the difficulty of the assignment. And so difficult, lengthy assignments were worth more than, formative assignments that were just, really easy to do. And then sometimes, too, I would modify the points for students that needed modifications or accommodations, and that's what I did.
Okay.
I would interject that you want to stay clear of things that sound very arbitrary, like giving participation points, because that sounds very subjective, and you could end up with a situation where you have an angry parent in front of you saying, why didn't my child get participation points? It's just because you don't like them. And rather than tying it to something specific and that you can quantify, like they were required to spend 3 days working on a project in the lab, and they did not spend 3 days working in the lab.
They didn't produce anything.
They did not produce anything. So make sure that what you're trying to measure is quantifiable.
That's good. Yeah.
And I would add to that, so if you have them complete a do now when they come in, or have them do a quick write, those would all be evidence of participation. So you want to have some type of evidence that they've participated in whatever the activity was in class.
Yeah.
As far as points, there are things you can look up. Some teachers say don't ever give more than 100 points, and then they divide all their assignments up from there because they know they're not going to go over 100. Some people say 1,000. I always had tons of points because I assigned 10 points to smaller assignments, up to 150, 200 points to really lengthy projects. So it's all kind of personal preference.
And also maybe if you have rubrics, then you could use the rubrics, and that would help you give out as points evenly, so that it's all substantiated as to how each student got their points.
Highly encourage rubrics because you have something defensible
Yeah, exactly.
in terms of, and you know clearly what the expectations were and what they're being measured on.
And be consistent through the semester. If a small assignment is worth 10 points at the beginning of the semester, it needs to be worth 10 points at the end of the semester. Wait for a semester end or a year end if there's drastic changes to be made.
Okay. So our next question is, how many 504 meetings do you need to attend, and how long are those meetings?
Speaking from my experience, I wasn't necessarily expected to attend meetings. If I was requested by counseling, those were the meetings I went to. And if they happened during the day, a period sub was set and covered my class. They usually lasted between a half hour and an hour, or usually just within the class period.
Mine were always quick as well. Most of the time they just wanted to know how the student was doing in my class. And because my class was project-based and very visual, I was able to often print things out and take them with them and say, here's what your student is doing in my class. And that really helped them kind of grasp, their engagement and all that.
And as far as IEPs and 504s go, it is required that a general education teacher attend those meetings. So many times they will select the ROP teacher over, let's say, a math or English teacher. So usually if you're selected, they will notify you by email in the mailbox. A sub will show up at your door saying you have a IEP meeting, but you are required to attend the meetings that you have been notified of. Okay. Cool. The last one there, David, you want to read it?
Finally, the last question is, how do I encourage active participation?
A good icebreaker could work. A lab activity could also work. If you don't have a class that has a lab activity, then maybe an icebreaker in which everyone participates. So for example, there's quite a few out there, but the one I used to do was called the 15 Seconds of Fame. So I would have students ask each other questions, and they could be fun questions or serious questions or a topical type of question. And at the very end, one student would get up and introduce their partner and read out loud what the partner answered. And then the partner would get up and repeat the process for their partner. And it was a great way to get them engaged. And if there was a specific topic or a lesson that you want them to talk about, that could get them talking about that topic, and at the same time they can have fun with it.
One of the best models I've seen was getting kids up and encouraging them to move around the room and creating opportunities for that. For example, if you have, you've got 4 walls in your classroom, on one wall, put questions, just tape a question to the wall. And on each wall, and ask students to number off and say, okay, all the 2s are going to go over to this wall and they're going to answer that question and discuss it, come up with some examples, and they're going to share out. And if you have 4 different questions on each wall and each group of students is reflecting on that and sharing it out, that's a good way to cover content and add movement, which creates engagement.
Yeah. Like I said yesterday, positivity is always great. And if you have students that are doing a great job, tell them that, recognize that, and it'll encourage other students to want to also get encouraged. They want to get their teacher's approval.
This is part of classroom management. I was thinking along the lines of increasing the level of concern. So if a student seems distracted or disengaged, you could remind them of what the culminating task, project, or test will be so that they understand this is information you'll need to know. And you could also use proximity. So if you have somebody that's off task and not being actively engaged, you can go stand near them, and then they kind of re-engage because they know that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So, okay.
Sometimes students can be quiet and tend to stay to themselves. Don't be afraid of using that silence back with them. Give them time to answer. Don't feel that you must jump in right away. The silence will be uncomfortable, but they'll come up with answers.
Good.
Yep.
And I also think sometimes you can use apps and sites like Kahoot to turn whatever you're teaching into a game, and some students will participate that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They might be more apt to participate digitally than they will physically in front of everybody else.
Right, because they don't have to raise their hand and shout out their
Right.
answer.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a wrap for our very first long-term parking.
That's right, and we're under 12 minutes, so we're good.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.